Welcome to Film Juice. This is John
Yo,
and Michael Blasada.
Howdy,
Blasada.
howdy.
Did I say it right?
Still no, but that's all right.
Blazada.
There you go.
Blazada.
Howdy, gents. Howdy, everyone.
And me, Mike. And we're gonna talk about a little. I feel like I say that a lot. Like I feel like a little something, but no, this is like a big something. John Carter from 2012. The sci-fi movie that couldn't. Went through several development stages and landed exactly on its face. But I think it's still an entertaining movie. I think it's a legit thing. I don't know. How did you guys feel about John Carter?
I was very entertained. I think I came in with low expectations. But having just recently watched it throughout, it was pretty good. There were some things that I had some problems with, but nothing too major. But a good popcorn flick, in my opinion.
yeah, it's. I thought it was a. I thought it was a fun sci-fi movie, and with something, I think with enough different kind of elements about it to make it stand out on its own. I think the whole living on Mars, just in that time period of what was it, the 18 or 1700s,
It was like
1800s,
right after the Civil War.
right after the Civil War. Okay, so yeah, late 1800s, and I would have. So that idea of someone from that time period, and this guy John Carter, he's a retired vet, and from that, yeah. So for someone from that era going into Mars, experiencing it, American, I thought that was an interesting premise.
You know what I thought was interesting was that I was like, this guy's way too young to be a vet, but at the same time, it was the Civil War and they were drafting like 16-year-olds. So
Yeah,
it kind of works.
true.
So how old do you think his character was supposed to be?
25.
Wow. I was thinking, yeah, actually, you know what? I was thinking around 30.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking like late 20s.
What
Michael,
I thought
whatever
was funny. All right, what's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Michael, how old do you think he was?
He was a very seasoned late 20s millennial.
Damn, that's very specific.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He's seen some stuff.
He's seen stuff and he knows how to deal with stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he fought for the Confederate Army. He was
Yeah,
a Confederate Army captain.
He was a
Captain too.
racist. Yeah, I was surprised they put
Yep.
that in because they legit said like, "Oh, we got Bryan Cranston."
Oh my gosh. I
Wasn't that a
love that he was
surprise?
in the movie. Yes. I
I
love that
did
he
not
was in
even
there.
realize it was him before.
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, Bryan Cranston was in the first. He was the army captain that was like, "Come on, Carter, we gotta get you back in the game."
He was Colonel Powell, I believe.
There you go.
I was gonna say, yeah, I did recognize his name. That's right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Colonel Powell, a Union colonel. Who? Yeah, and he was trying to recruit John. Yeah, Well, the interesting thing though too is that some people. Well, I guess if we want to get into it, is there were some people who did fight for the Confederate side that were more Um, I guess they were. I guess you were for racism. I guess anyway, right? But I know for some people it wasn't. I mean, it was families against families, and uh, there was some. I guess what I'm trying to say is there was some. Because this guy was interesting. He was like, it cost me everything in the war, and he didn't want to go back to war. You find out later at the end of the movie, pretty much that he lost his wife and daughter.
Yeah, this movie is pretty close to Rambo.
Rambo?
You got a
In what
vet
way?
that like. It's a stretch. It's a stretch.
Sure.
First Blood? Who drew First Blood?
First Blood. I mean, I'm talking about First Blood, like where they drag him back into a war he didn't want to fight.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
That's about it.
At the onset, right when the film began, I got the impression it was very close to Dune, especially with the opening narration and the color palette.
Okay.
And that was my initial impression.
Are you talking about like the original David Lynch Dune?
No, I'm talking about the more recent.
Okay.
The more recent version, which I loved.
There was an interjection by Deja Thoris or whatever her name is, where it's just her face talking at the camera. Yeah. And she's like, for thousands of years, this and this has happened, this and that. And actually, I think I actually typed it down. Santhan offered to choose my father, Tardos Mars, the Jedi of Helium. I'm like, I don't understand 50% of that sentence, first of all. And then also she's talking directly at the camera, and that's how the first Dune, the 1984 Dune starts out, which is like somebody talking at you and telling you what the story is.
The narrator.
Yeah. But it felt like this was in the first 15 minutes, like after 15 minutes have passed, and then somebody starts telling you what the story is, and it's like, whoa.
Oh. In Dune, in the original?
In the original, it was at the beginning, but this felt like the story stopped, and it was like, hang on, let me catch you up to speed. Okay, now we can go on.
I thought it was at the beginning on this one.
It was pretty close. Right?
Oh, okay. What was the opening scene?
That was him being. Wasn't it him in the Civil War?
I think before they show the planet Mars and they do a short narration.
Do a little diagram.
Yeah. And then I think they jump right into the action, which is on the desert planet with the the spaceships and the battlefield. So that's why I immediately thought, oh, this is like Dune. And so I was hooked.
I thought the visual effects, by the way, too, because there's a lot of everything from Mars pretty much is, well, they did have some really big sets though, movie sets, but a lot of the characters are computer generated, and I was surprised at how closely they look to Disney's visual effects today. I was like, okay,
it's not that much of a leap.
It's not, and this is 10 years old, over 10 years old, 2012.
That was something I noticed. I mean, I could tell that this movie, being one of the most expensive movies to make, it looked amazing with its quality of visual effects and characters. Like, my goodness.
I was hoping. So this is something I thought was funny with John Carter's. I know you guys were talking about the language a little bit too. It's just that's where I was feeling the disconnect at, because I was thinking of Dune too, actually. The desert planet and the all the language. The language was like, it's this foreign alien language, and
it's like you're from Helium. Well, you're from Gypsy.
Yeah, it's helium, and then there's who's the other one? There's Basum, right? That's the name of the
Oh,
planet.
Yeah.
Barsum is the
Barsoom? Yeah.
Barsum
Mars.
Hmm.
Oh God.
Yeah,
and
when the
Jadet.
Jarsum is Earth.
that's right. When the characters would mention helium, I immediately thought, oh, it's like the spice for Dune, and it took me a quick minute to realize that helium was referring to one of the kingdoms that they were from.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought it
because
was a
there's two
resource.
kingdoms fighting. The story is very dense because you got them fighting each other for because of the marriage, and then John Carter with the Tharks.
So, yeah, do we want to lay out kind of the a little more to how this retired Confederate captain, ends up on Mars and what he has to, what he goes through there. Um, as far as like an outline, I guess, of this, because it is a lot. It's a lot of uh,
Kind of overlapping, over
Oprah.
overlapping,
It's a lot of Oprah in this movie.
a lot of Oprah, a lot of overlapping narratives.
Yeah, and this movie is what was the runtime? Is it
It's a good 2:15.
okay? Um, so yeah, the Southern American post Civil War captain ends up on Mars because he it's interesting. There's this technology that from these they're kind of like these arbiters of the universe, I guess.
Yeah, they're just kind of orchestrating things the way they believe things should go.
Are these
Therns. They
the
call them
Therns? Yeah.
Therns, yeah.
Therns, and they look like monks, like
Yeah, they're just
pale
like in these big
monks,
robes.
and they can shapeshift and they can also transport themselves um, with the technology, and it's a little pendant basically each of them have that enables these different abilities, and so they shape shift through time through different worlds, and Earth is one of them and Mars is another, and so they're also manipulating history and just I guess just manipulating history in a way, right? Because there's like a little monologue that one of them gives.
Yeah, where he says that they're merely acting out what's going to happen.
Yeah, right. They are managing the
Managing.
events, not necessarily orchestrating anything.
They're managing them, yeah.
Yeah.
And they all, according to them, they all come to essentially civilizations end up destroying themselves.
Hmm.
And so John Carter, well, they claim that to John Carter, at least, one of them makes a claim that they're immortal. Um, but John Carter was able to kill one in a cave on Earth, and he that's how he got hold of one of their pendants, and he spoke the word Barsum, which was what the Thurn was saying before he died, and it transported John Carter to Mars. And it was interesting because the way that I thought it just took him to Mars, but the way that they explain it is that it actually made a copy of him, like a. They said it was like a telegraph, right? Like it was
Yeah.
just that pendant
Or
left his body on Earth, his human
We
body on
can
Earth.
we can get into that weird sci-fi shit
Yeah. Um,
after.
it's
Because
it
that
was a more sophisticated fax machine,
is a very
pretty much.
sophisticated
yeah, that's a good
separately
way to put it.
minded
Um,
sentient fax.
so yeah, so that's how he ends up on Mars. He's found by one of this the species there. I believe they're called. What were they called? They're green and ugly.
The
The
Tharks,
Thark?
That sounds like it.
because the
And
leader was Tarkus, Willem Dafoe.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I caught his voice right away.
Right away, yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually also caught the other one, like the opposing one,
Oh, is that
the Thomas Hayden Church.
yes, there you go.
Yeah, I
yes,
was
I
like,
caught his.
yes. I didn't recognize him the first time I saw him, but this one I
And
was like, yeah, that's totally Thomas Hayden Church.
Mhm.
and those are some of the best. Willem Dafoe is probably the best written character,
Yeah,
or one of one of
he's
the very best.
he's my favorite part of the movie, I think.
Um, and so he's he stumbles upon John Carter first, and the cool thing is that John Carter can breathe on Mars, um, and I thought that was neat. I mean, I don't know if it's because if it's the new body he has or what. I'm guessing that's why, but
Can I ask a question really quick though? So as he's transported or when he's transported to Mars via the pendant, is this present day Mars or alternate reality Mars? I wasn't clear on the
oh,
timeline.
I was thinking it was present day Mars.
I was thinking it was in the context of John Carter's uh, time period.
Okay. Hmm. I wasn't sure if that was made clear in the movie. That's why I was wondering.
Well, if there was a sequel, it would maybe
Clarify that.
in my mind it would be in present day Mars, which would be future Mars for him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he would
Um,
have to like start over.
what did you think, Blazada?
So I I initially my impression was that it was an alternate reality of Mars to ours. That maybe that he was transported, but it was just another dimension or multiverse version of the planet. I didn't catch anything about the timeline within the initial opening narration, but that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's interesting. So his physiology like allows him to have these abilities on Mars, and the the aliens there take notice of it immediately, and so he's jumping like 10 stories high into the air. You see him having like a super strength, um, and then also so he's punching people like into walls and throwing huge rocks and breaking chains and things like that with his bare hands. So that was really interesting to see, and I wish we would have seen a little bit more of it because he's mostly jumping in this movie. He's just mostly jumping from place to place. I felt like
Yeah,
he's just it's
they
like a
literally
grasshopper.
yeah, they
And his knees
literally
don't
say like
shatter.
What's that?
I was gonna say they literally say like, "Can you get me from here to there?" And I was like, I hadn't seen it in a while, so I was like, he's gonna have to jump across a bunch of rooftops, and he does. He jumps from here to there, and it's like 25 miles.
Yeah, that's the what I just mentioned is that his knees miraculously don't shatter each time he lands from rock to
Yeah,
rock.
he has a pillow beneath his feet.
They explain
Ah,
it away as saying that his bone density is stronger and thicker than
oh, that's right.
because of being on Earth. Yeah, that was an explanation that they gave. I believe it was a Thurn who said that. So then he ends up stumbling upon a couple other the Red Martians. And I didn't realize they were Red Martians, but the more I look into this, yeah, they're supposed to be. No wonder they had a funny hue to them.
Yeah, they were awfully bronze, and I just
Yeah,
thought it
they're
was
very.
a choice of the makeup team to make them especially
I
red.
didn't notice. I didn't notice until somebody said you can save your red princess, and I was like, oh,
Right.
she is kind of red. Oh,
So these
oh,
so the ones that he comes across first, right, are the isn't it the Zodanga? Oh, it's a conflict that he comes into, right? It's between Helium and Zodanga, and Zodanga,
It's
the princess.
that's like the main planet deciding factor.
So are they not competing kingdoms then with for that territory, Helium and Zendinga, or am I mistaken?
They're trying to
They
take over Helium.
they're the two
Okay.
major cities, two of the major cities of the Red
Yeah,
Martians.
Helium is the last bastion of free will, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. It's Zozanga that the Sabthan, forgettable
Sabtan.
name, or a
Very
very
forgettable. Instead of what's the other guy? Cal Kotan, Jotal Gaban,
Oh, Chris Kattan.
Chris Kattan.
I believe you, even if that was a joke or wrong. Because
That's a real
there's so many.
person.
Yeah, like I'm looking at a few names here just on Wikipedia. There's Dix, there's Sarkoja, there's Kantos Khan,
Mm.
Tardos Moors,
Oh
Matai
yeah.
Shang,
Mm.
Sola.
So many different species and races and whatnot.
And I found that hard, like to follow things because I couldn't remember anyone's name. You know,
I couldn't remember. I was just like that guy with the thing.
Deja, I think, which is the princess
Right.
um, of Helium. She's the one I think I caught on to, but a lot of the other ones, some of them even look the same. I don't know if you guys thought that as well. Like,
They're like
uh,
Yeah.
short haired, black haired white
There you
guys.
go. Right. Yeah.
I couldn't distinguish between them. The one guy that freed him,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I
yes,
was like,
I thought he was the villain.
me too.
So it was
I was
Dominic West who was the villain, Sabthan, and then the guy we're talking about, who's like the right hand of the king of Helium, James Purefoy. He's
Oh yeah, he was in
Kantos
Resident
Khan,
Evil. Yeah, he was in Resident Evil.
and yeah, those two guys look the same, and it was just yeah, I got confused.
And they also look like Thomas Jane a little bit.
right. Yeah. That's who I couldn't place, but I thought, yeah, that's a very similar look.
So,
I
um, well, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to backtrack a little bit and mention how much I loved seeing Bryan Cranston in that role as the colonel. I especially
Crusty old
chuckled.
colonel.
Yeah, I kept chuckling when Carter kept trying to escape over and over, and they
That
finally
was
had to
great.
throw him in a cell. I was
Doesn't
like, I
that
want
feel
to see.
like that feels like a different movie?
It does. Actually, I mean,
What I was
I would have
telling
liked to see a little bit more of the western in the movie to continue that part of the story, just because it was entertaining in its own
It's
right.
like
me too.
yeah, same here.
I was telling Mike, man, you know what would have been even like more appealing, I think, is even visually, because with the wardrobe wasn't all that great for John Carter at all. It was very, it's just kind of there.
Well, they did kind of explain it away because they were like, you're a Thark. You killed the Thark. Here's a Thark," and they give him a Thark, and it's like a cross chested thing, like a He-Man thing.
Yeah,
It left very little to the
exactly.
imagination.
But I was like okay with that because he was kind of built for that role. At least
He
he
was
had the
built. I mean, he didn't. Yeah, he had the physique.
he had the physique. Yeah,
But what I was thinking would have been cool is if like it was more in the direction of a western in the westernish in Mars.
right. Because it is basically a western.
Right.
And then so this is the thing with his look too. Like, so at this time, like everyone, like the rock band thing was going, right? Like everyone had that rocker kind of look. It's like this is coming to the end of it in 2012 of that era.
Mhm.
But I was thinking, man, like, why don't you, like, if he had, just a little shorter hair, um, and maybe had a hat, right, and his
What if
overcoat.
what if he carried with him? I mean, what if he had equipped a nice lush beard? That would have given him a
Oh,
more, a gruffy, grizzled look, more suitable for the West or for the terrain of the
true.
Martian planet.
Yeah, I would. I can go in that direction too, and then the shorter hair to go with it, right? Like on top, because I felt like the longer hair was like he's he's like the front man to a rock band, look.
Yeah,
That's
I
a,
felt like that. During, I was just like, you gotta toss it over your shoulder, and it's not efficient.
yeah, I got that vibe, and um it seemed to take it out of that time period too, like break the immersion there for me. Um because even when he did in the flashbacks, I don't know if he was working on another movie at this time, but even in the flashbacks with his wife, like he still had that long hair too. So
It
um
was shorter. It was way shorter.
it was way shorter.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay, I guess I'm remembering it differently, but
those were probably, like you said, like reshoots.
um okay. But yeah, I think that would have just helped visually, and then his wardrobe. I, I think it uh just something a little more visually popping, that makes you want to pay attention. Um,
Yeah, but it at the same time, it has to make sense. Like
yeah,
why is he thrust into the environment and then they're dressing him up at the same time?
So he becomes part of the fight for the native people um, of this kingdom or this part of the planet, right? So when I
right.
started seeing that, he became involved in the battles or challenges, I thought, oh, okay, this is very similar to movies we've seen, such as Avatar or Dances with Wolves from the '90s. That same narrative of
hmm
becoming slowly accepted and then one with the native people who have their own battle, to fight.
And so, and all of them, the Tharks want him to fight for them, to kill the red Martians, all of them
Yeah.
basically. And then Helium, the Princess Deja, wants him to fight for her kingdom, and he doesn't want to fight. He's still in that mindset of the Civil
Well,
War and
that brings
everything.
us that brings us to the weird conclusion where he fights all the Tharks and he kills a bunch of them. He's not quite a war hero at that point, is he?
Are you talking about the end of the movie or at this
Yeah,
point in the film?
the end of the movie.
Yeah, where he escapes the Tharks because him and Deja get captured by the Tharks, and they're like exploring, and they desecrate one of their holy places,
Yeah,
and
he has to fight.
it's punishable.
Yeah, it's
It's punishable
punishable.
by death, and so they're able to escape that, and they're in search of an artifact, right, on Mars,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when all these Tharks have found them. They went chasing after him and found him, and in order to protect the princess and his friends, he just grabs two swords and he's just like chopping away at all these Tharks.
Yeah, I
That's
was
That was
thinking
pretty
of
brutal.
crazy. That was
what's
cool.
the I was thinking about what the choreography was because he was obviously against a green screen.
Right. Maybe a bunch of stunt people with, wearing entirely green, just kind of plain.
Just like
Uh,
ducked out of
in,
sight.
right. Sure. Okay. So let's process this. Right. So he's fighting against the Tharks, but ultimately, I mean, they band together with the red people against the Therns. Am I right, or are we missing something there?
So the Therns are they believe them to be so all of the societies on Mars, like they don't know if Therns are real, but they believe them to be some kind of spiritual um what's it called, like a spiritual guide or spiritual
Mm-hmm.
um being that is there but they don't know is there, kind of thing. And so it's all by faith. But yeah, they do end up John Carter reveals that they are real, and his friends, so the princess, and the princess from the Tharks too, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
um they're friends with him, and so in this journey they find out that the Therns are real, and so they're in turn, like their societies, yeah, they end up turning against the Therns. And so that's like a they end up fighting the Therns. But yeah, it's that's kind of like the side battle that no one knows is going on.
Well, it sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me.
I love seeing Mark Strong in that role. He was
Mark Strong is always great. He played Sinestro,
yeah.
and he should always play Sinestro, I think.
I'd like to see him as a Lex Luthor. I mean,
Ooh,
he has
yeah,
he has to look for it.
definitely. But Mark Strong as the Taurus Telkel Chakathon.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's interesting learning about the novel that this movie was inspired by. And man, this novel's old, dude. This novel's from 1912.
Yeah, I read that they tried many times to get it off the ground from the 1930s until the 80s, and it never really came to fruition until Mr. Stanton, the director, really pushed for the rights to go from the main author's estate to Disney. And he was really behind getting this going and crafting this story and trying to make it contemporary for a lot of audiences. But what happened? Because I don't know too much about the movie beforehand, but I just know it didn't do very well whatsoever. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so it's based off of the movie itself in theaters and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, it didn't do very well. It just went over so the budget was 306.6 million gross, and the box office brought home 284.1 million.
Ooh,
That's just shy of that's way under.
yeah, it's
When you
pretty
think
under.
about it.
Yeah.
I understand, because you can't just call a movie John Carter. It's got to have a hook.
Yeah,
Gotta
that's
have
what I
some.
was thinking too. I don't think that was a good name for it.
No,
There's nothing
like, and they
really
were trying
appealing about
too hard.
that.
They were trying too hard. I think they could have gone with like a different title entirely, and they were going towards making a new Star Wars franchise, or just like a general fantasy franchise. Like, it failed because they didn't know how to market it.
So what I think toward the end of the movie it was revealed that, or it finished with John Carter of Mars, and I thought that could have been the suitable replacement for the name of the movie.
Mm.
I think that gives it some camp value. it kind of makes
it
you want
is
to.
better.
Yeah,
Um, it had a lot to compete with in that year or two, dude. Man, I'm seeing a lot of pretty good movies. I mean, and it came out in February of 2012. I mean, I'm just seeing a bunch of movies that came out that year. The first Avengers movie, the first Hobbit,
Never seen it.
Hunger Games, the first one, Dark Knight Rises. Those are just a few, but there's a lot. Jack Reacher, Amazing Spider-Man.
I don't personally remember seeing like too much of an impactful trailer back then, which is why I'm guessing it flew under the radar for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, and then Twilight Saga Part 2 came out that year. Wreck-It Ralph. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. It's probably just lost too, especially trailer wise. I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, oh, okay, that looks interesting, and never making it out to see it.
yeah, it never like bounced back. Like you see the trailer again, they do that
Right.
with like,
Seeing another movie,
yeah, yes,
and it's like, oh yeah, that movie. And it not having that enough to grab me enough to go and watch it. Yeah.
It was
It's
certain. I mean, it had a lot going for it, and I could see the potential for sequels. Had it done a lot better. Um, I think they did a really good job of throwing in levity and some comedic bits here and there.
yeah,
And at the end, I really enjoyed it. I especially liked. I don't know what I wanted to get the thoughts of both of you, but the ending where it's him on the balcony and he's found his peace on planet Mars now, or Barsoom, and he throws away his pendant over the edge, and I think that could be the end of the movie, and then we're taken back quickly to Earth when
somebody
when
found
he's yeah, I mean he's taken back to Earth because what's the villain's name? I keep forgetting. Mark Strong.
it. Something Khan.
Okay, Khan.
it's I have it right here. Hold on.
Camo Khan.
Where is it? Sabthan.
There you go.
Sabthan.
And he's
Sabthan.
taken back, or he's thrown back to Earth for what, 10 years, I believe, uh,
Yes.
trying to search for his way back. And I thought it was a really neat twist that he faked his death with that potion, and his nephew is the one who unlocks him. And his nephew is about to be killed by the villain, and then John Carter pops out from right behind him and shoots him in the back. And then he's now given this chance to go back. And I thought, that was a good choice to just differ from other traditional endings of a movie like this. What about y'all?
Me too. I again, it brought in that old post Civil War time period feel into the movie again, and it was nice. It was really refreshing, and there was something understandable too about that, like that I felt was familiar enough for me to like I could follow that, and I liked I liked it. I liked it a lot, and and it's so yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is, um, yeah, I wish they would have kept some of that when they went to Mars. Like I wish they would have held on to a little more of that era, so you don't just think this guy is, um, because I feel like that gave him the most identity.
True.
Um, and when he was in Mars, he almost, it's like John Carter that's one of the things he lacks is like there's almost nothing to hold on to as far as him as a character and that makes him even interesting, you know, when he's in
Yeah.
Mars. And even his powers, you know, it just didn't get to that level where he's like, oh yeah, like John Carter. Um,
No, it's all utilitarian.
I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more time when he's returned back to Earth. Him having to reconcile with not having those Martian powers anymore, and as
Yeah, like
transition back to Earth.
yeah, like he's got a girl on his arm and he's like, "Hey, let's go to the movies." And he tries to jump off and it's just like, ugh, ugh, ugh. Ah, well, let's take a cab
or a horse.
or horse and buggy, yeah.
Or an Uber, either one.
Or an Uber horse.
Just
Have you
brings
guys
back a Uber.
have you guys tried that yet? The Uber horse?
It's not as great as it seems. It's really bumpy.
It smells like shit.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, it does.
Do we know if in this travel back and forth, if any time has passed whatsoever? I'll maybe if it's been 10 years there, or if time's the same each time that he goes.
Oh yeah, so if you remember when he does go back to Earth, years have passed.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember how long, but it was long enough for that Colonel Powell's skin and everything had rotted away. You just see his skull and bones.
Oh, I missed
That's
that then.
right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it at least been a week.
Unless the terrible, horrible Native Americans,
Cannibals.
cannibal, horrible, horrible brown red people came and ate his skin
Skinned him.
down to that Thomas Hayden Church bones.
So um, what do you what do you think could have helped the movie been more successful aside from maybe how it was marketed?
I think the art direction of the movie was pretty stale.
Okay.
So I think some more landscapes, like a Star Wars kind of like, you know how Star Wars every like 20 minutes there's a transition to a new planet,
That's true. Yeah.
and it changes the background of the characters, the setting. It this felt like a long brown and red trudge through southern Arizona or something. And I think changing up the setting here and there, like maybe there's an oasis or something on Mars,
Or maybe they venture off planet to a neighboring planet.
or they go to another planet entirely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess that would have been explored in the sequels had they continued it. You know, the expanding universe of this universe. What about you, Johnny?
The JCEU,
Yeah, the JCU.
the John Carter expanded universe.
No, I agree with you guys. I mean, I'm pretty much there. I think also, I mean, it's such an old book too, and it is a classic, so it's kind of hard to what's it called? I mean, it's inspired what's it called? Ray Bradbury's uh, novels, and it's I was reading here it inspired Avatar, James Cameron, and it seems to be one of like the OGs, you know, for these kind of science fiction. And actually, in
Right.
Wikipedia, it says that it's considered a classic example of 20th century pulp fiction.
Yeah.
So Pulp Fiction, I don't really, I mean, I like the movie Pulp Fiction, but I guess I never really looked up what it means. Um, but here on Wikipedia it says that it's in reference to run-of-the-mill, low-quality literature.
Oh wow.
I don't know if you'd agree with that, Mike, or maybe you could give us a better definition.
I mean, I never. Oh, you go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
I got off my train of thought. You go ahead.
You go ahead.
So I mean, so I'm guessing it's just basically like, kind of like off the cuff, basically. Um, Stories, because it can go into all kinds of genres, Pulp Fiction. So I guess it's just kind of like off the cuff, out of the top of your head imagination kind of, science fiction story, I guess. I don't know. Would you agree with that,
Yeah,
Mike?
I feel like I've seen, or I the narrative, the story of an outsider coming in and being embraced by the native people of a race or of a planet or society, and then joining forces, and then taking up their battle and helping them overcome a more formidable villain. I feel like I've seen that in a lot of different types of movies and films, and it's not bad per se. I feel like it's been done many times, and I'm
Mm.
not sure if this factored into the movie not doing so well, or maybe if it was just strictly the marketing, or as you mentioned earlier, Johnny, just the number of films that it has to compete with.
Yeah. Uh, and even in that regard, I think Disney was the wrong choice then for this movie. Um, Now that I learn more about the actual book, which is The Princess of Mars. Sorry if we haven't said that yet, but yeah, and that's the book that this movie's based on. And I think it would have been better under a different studio, a more, adult oriented studio, as opposed to like family friendly and
I
kid.
mean, you would think because of Frank Frazetta's paintings of a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs' stuff, they did kind of. I mean, she was
Well,
pretty
because
skimpy throughout the movie, right?
but not really, not really. I mean, she
I mean,
was.
not horribly.
No, I wouldn't even say really skimpy. I mean, you didn't. I think. I mean, because look, Princess Leia versus this Princess Deja.
Ooh,
Princess Leia was in more provocative
Well, that
outfits than this woman.
in one half of one movie, Princess Leia was skimpy.
I think her original getup was quite skimpy, quite sexy. That's just me.
She was in a
With the
gown.
buns, yeah, with the buns. That's all it takes.
It's the buns. It's the buns
That's
for
what it is.
Mike Blazada,
And that's right.
folks.
He's a buns man.
Okay. I mean, maybe that's not a good example because I mean, yeah, Princess Leia, but I'm saying is this princess never got that skimpy. It never went to that level. So,
Yeah,
um, but you look at the director. The director, he co-directed Bug's Life. He directed Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, Wally, and all before he directed John Carter. And he co-wrote for Toy Story and Monsters Inc. So this is not the guy you
Okay.
want
Yeah,
directing a story like this.
that makes sense. Sure.
Andrew Stanton is his name.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, that was a bad choice on Disney's part.
I feel
Because
like
you
I've
give
seen.
like let's
I
say you gave this to a director like James Cameron, you know.
it would have been 4 movies long.
But you would have had probably some more like live, or like animatronics, at
Yeah,
least.
something live because there was a few moments where Willem Dafoe's character is talking to Taylor Kitsch, and I'm like, I know what he's saying means something, and I can take that at least from the voice performance. But the cartoon talking to me is like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's you bring up a good point. I mean, I would have liked the movie a little better had I seen these actors in prosthetics or in makeup.
Oh,
Just
absolutely.
Same.
it lowered the stakes for me. Just
Yeah,
the animation.
it's a bunch of cartoons.
Sure.
Two.
The it was a pretty cool battle. There was some good ones. There's some good action scenes with those big monkey like four or I guess six-legged
Oh, the white ape.
four-arm white ape.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
battle scenes. That was pretty cool.
The
I
music,
thought it was. Go ahead.
and the score, I really enjoyed. I mean, it was it kept up with the type of action and the battle scenes that you would see, and I liked it so much that when I watched the credits, I was looking out for the composer, and it was is it Michael Giacchino? I don't know if I'm pronouncing
Yes.
his name right, but he
Yes,
scored
he's.
the Batman, or the more recent Batman.
Oh, okay.
He not only
So,
scored the Batman, but he also did Werewolf by Night. I don't know if y'all watched it.
oh, okay.
I haven't.
He directed
No,
and did the score.
Cool.
nice.
Oh, he's done some. Oh,
Doctor
uh
Strange.
he did some old like 90s video game music too for The Lion King, Jurassic Park, Lost World. That's cool.
Nice.
Small Soldiers for PS1. Oh, dude, he did a bunch of music for Medal of Honor, the Medal of Honor series. I don't know if y'all remember those. Well, it's pretty cool.
I think in as you mentioned, Johnny, because the movie was so, I guess, tailored towards a family-friendly market. I mean, I saw a lot of opportunities for the villains to have maybe more meaningful depth. They were vanquished a little too quickly for me. Um, Almost in an instant, we had the Stark who Thomas Hayden Church was voicing. He vanished pretty quickly, and then also the main Thurn, and then the dishonorable prince who was trying to marry Deja. They all kind of vanished kind of quickly for me, and their deaths really didn't have any major resonance.
Right.
It was slightly anticlimactic.
There you go.
And it was hard to find in this world of sand and especially among the red Martian species. It was hard to find some defining features and even armor and things like that. They did have some pretty cool armor for each of them, but it was still kind of hard to unless it was like right up on the camera. The camera was right up on the armor and stuff. It was still it was hard to it just meshed together. It all kind of blurred together. And that's what I found that's kind of hard with these. I gotta say it's difficult even in other movies based with Mars. Like they go for this aesthetic that, and I think of Dune. Um, it just gets all very kind of bland, and it all just everything about it just feels uh, monotonous. I guess. Um, I don't know if y'all get what I'm saying, but um, I haven't seen the new Dune, by the way, so I'm not sure. I'm not really talking about that one, but I'm talking about the old one.
No, it did
Um,
feel very old Dune, and it did wear, I will say, at least the landscape wore out its welcome pretty fairly on.
yeah, I wish there was something. Again, I mean, it's amazing, and obviously these authors had enough uh, kind of like of an inspiration. They had an inspiration from this planet, and you'd think that visually it would show a little more, to convey the awe and the inspiration that, obviously these writers are.
That they're drawing from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it felt a lot like Southern California, kind of
Like Mojave Desert.
Mojave Desert. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some
I
really nice landscapes, but overall, it just felt like kind of lazy. And to set every scene during that same sunset, kind of cut the drama a little bit.
Yeah, I
For
see. I
sure.
see. Hmm.
I mean, it did look impressive when you consider the age of the movie. Just the amount of effects and the quality of effects, especially when we would see the transitions between characters when they would shapeshift. I thought it was pretty dang flawless for its time, but my goodness, it did look very expensive.
Yeah, that's true. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was, right, especially for this time.
And the facial expressions on Taras Tarkus.
Who the hell's that?
Yeah.
Is that Willem Dafoe's character?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
How did they? Okay, so they spoke English halfway through, right? We didn't get an explanation for how they.
Oh yeah. So what that was is, if you remember, Taras Tarkus's daughter, bastard child, I guess. She was in charge of feeding the new little Tharks, and so she fed them this water, this liquid substance, and she fed it to John Carter, and that's how he was starting to understand them. And
Gotcha. Okay.
and also then he was able to speak to them too.
Got it. I liked it. It was entertaining for sure, and I think that there were a couple of things that I was nitpicking, but I liked it overall, especially the ending. Really sealed it in for me.
Yeah, overall I liked it too. I like you. I wanted. I mean, at the end there, it really closed it, pretty well, and set it up for the sequel, which was, it got me excited to see what else they would do with it. And sadly, yeah, I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, we didn't get that sequel. It's not coming.
Mike, did you? What do you think of the actress who played Deja Thoris? I thought she could make a suitable Wonder Woman.
I think Mike stepped away for a second.
Oh well, Johnny, what do you think about her look and her performance?
Oh yeah, I mean, she did great. I thought she was one of the better actors too. Actually, I thought yeah, she was right up there, dude. She made it all believable, and as a Wonder Woman, I mean, now, yeah, she could definitely pull it off.
No.
I like. Welcome back, Mike.
Gal Gadot, or there's nothing to be sought.
Goodness. I mean, I know that they are fielding replacements at this point. I still love Gal Gadot, whether she's in the role or not. The same for Mr. Cavill. In whatever movie they end up landing, I will be supporters of them because they are part of my my heart as a DC fan.
They keep naming all these replacements for Henry Cavill, and I'm like, but they look just like Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill light. What are your thoughts on the recent kerfuffle, Johnny? Well, not kerfuffle, but development.
You have to update me on it, man. I stopped following after I heard that Cavill was out officially. Pretty much, I stopped after that. Anything?
So
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, is it Mike? Is it a blanket reboot, or just are they incorporating what they have already? What do you think?
James Gunn officially said that his Superman casting has nothing to do with what is rumored.
Mm.
And because of that, like, I think everything else goes out the window. Like, he's kind of saying, like, don't pay attention to the rumors.
Mm.
So it would just be really weird for DC to start a big slate with an A-list hero and then follow it up with a bunch of like weird, like how he's hinted at he wants to do Dead Man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from my understanding is that he has this grand plan with a lot of moving components, and he is his he keeps trying to assuade or let the fans or followers know that it'll work out for the best in terms of his storytelling plans between him and Peter, and just basically trying to, from what I gather anyway, just try to wipe away any remnants of the Snyderverse and start anew. But just going back, if we were thinking about who could be a suitable, at least physically, replacement for a Wonder Woman character, I think Miss Deja Thoris, or the actress who portrayed her, or someone with that similar look, could be just fine. But going back to the movie, I think she gave a pretty decent performance, and I especially liked her silent little. I think she mentioned, or she said, "I am alone," when John Carter had disappeared for an instant, and I thought that was a little heartbreaking, but she sold it.
Yeah, she did great. She did excellent, and she really brought that character to life. I I don't think they'll bring someone mature like her on. I think they're going to bring, from what I did read, and from James Gunn's posts and stuff on Twitter, and where he likes to, I guess, talk about his future plans for DC, is I know for Superman he wants to start him young as a teenager. He said he doesn't want some, and that's why he didn't want Cavill.
That's awfully young to go teenager route, but
yeah,
that leaves a lot of room for a lot of storytelling if he plans to, lay out a 10-year plan.
yeah, and so, I mean, he's coming from Marvel too, and he's bringing that experience and just being part of that whole thing that Marvel with Disney has done.
It's so funny. It's interesting to think that for a hot minute he was, exiled entirely because of the Twitter scandal that he was involved in, and now he's, leading this, movement to revitalize DC when he was just not too recently, left to ruin.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was involved in anything.
Mike, do you remember what he had mentioned or said online that got him in hot water?
He hadn't. They haven't said, but it was like very offensive.
Hmm.
Well,
then it's probably not offensive if they don't say what it is. I feel like,
because Disney just flat out like crushed him,
mm-hmm.
and now
wow. Dang, I didn't know that happened. When was this? Recently?
In the last year, 2021.
Wow.
No, it must have been before that. Maybe 2020. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, he was not someone who people wanted to work with, but they welcomed him back, I think, at some point, and now he's here leading the DC movement.
Yeah. What I like about him so far is that he seems to. I mean, I remember he was sticking up for Chris Pratt when they were trying to cancel him over just a church he goes to. From what I remember,
Mm-hmm.
like it was this big thing. It's just like, oh, he goes to this church, cancel. Don't, like, he shouldn't be in the next Guardians movie or something like that. It's just like, what, cancel him. And James Gunn actually stood up for him, and He's like, y'all need to back off this guy. He's just because he goes to this church doesn't mean, you know, what you're saying about him is true. And he's a really good guy, and I'm not taking him off my movie just because of you guys, basically. And
Yeah.
so that was cool. I was like, yeah, good, man. Good on you. And hopefully, so hopefully that means that he's going to cast some, you know, he's going to make these characters out pretty good. Because what it was very hard, and I know we're talking about Wonder Woman, it's very hard to find someone, a woman actress who's strong, who come, you know, who can be very, come out very strong, but also come out very graceful.
Very true.
And,
yeah.
And so, you know, what I've been seeing, especially in the Marvel shows, is you find one that's just too strong, or like they're just all strong, and then, you know, and no grace, and it's hard for them to even dip into the graceful side of things. And um, so yeah, I wouldn't want a Wonder Woman. Like with Wonder Woman, I feel like she's so perfect, you know, like you have to, she's like, you have to dip into both like pretty often to with her, with that character.
So John Carter, I'd recommend to I guess for a good admirer of big blockbuster popcorn flicks, I would give it one of my personal thumbs up.
Yeah, I would say it's worth a watch. If you're into, especially if you like things like Valerian, if you like that movie. There's another one I was thinking of too. What's it? But I don't know. That's the main one that I think of. If you're a fan of Valerian and the like, I think you're going to find a lot to enjoy in this movie. And
yeah, just a self-contained sci-fi film.
And that one was based off of a novel, or well, not a novel, but comic books, which is similar to Pulp Fiction. So
yeah. But yeah, thank you, Mike, for being here.
Always a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, it's been good. I always enjoy hearing your thoughts and whatnot. It's been pretty good. All right, so now we need to start a petition for John Carter 2.